Hey, well, good evening, and welcome to the Pregnancy Help and Information Center's Brephos 2021. My name is Ryan Sprague, and I have the privilege and the joy of being the CEO of the Pregnancy Help and Information Center. And I'm here tonight to invite you to support the work that it is that we do. So first, I just want to thank you for participating. I know this is not your ordinary fundraising event, as you are sitting right now in somebody's living room or around their kitchen table or maybe in someone's backyard or a church lobby. We have people meeting all across town in various different venues, all coming together to support this because of this thing, the coronavirus. That there's so much going on as far as what the rules were and who wears masks and who doesn't wear masks and what's safe and what's not safe, that we came up with this concept of being able to do it in homes where people who knew each other well and felt comfortable with each other could manage it however they're most comfortable managing it. And I just appreciate you being flexible with us as we do this event. And again, we try to come together to get supportive of the work that we're doing at the Pregnancy Help and Information Center. So it is weird, isn't it? If anything, 2020 has been weird. And there's been a lot of new things going on for us, like new vocabulary. Like this year, you guys all have the new vocabulary of knowing what Zoom is, or what the Rona is, or what social distancing is, or what a rapid test is, things that we didn't know 18 months ago. What about things you never thought you'd say, like Costco's out of toilet paper, or honey, did you remember to bleach the groceries? Or what about new celebrities? Like none of us knew who Anthony Fauci were or Carol Baskin was 18 months ago, but now they're talking about them being on the next Dancing with the Stars. What about new behaviors, like taking family pictures, one with a mask on and then one without a mask on, or the idea of paying $30 to stream a movie at home instead of going to the movie theater? What about structures? Like my house, we have a new tree house in our backyard that was built during the quarantine of the coronavirus. And here at the Phi Center, we have a cabana. We call it the Corona Cabana, which is where we were able to serve clients in our back parking lot. When everything else was quarantining and closing down, it was important for us to be available. But the good news is, we built both of those structures before lumber became more valuable than diamonds. And who knew that one day if they ever make a coronavirus board game that toilet paper and lumber are going to be the currency in that particular game. So anyhow, a friend and I were talking actually about if the history books are going to look back on 2020 or the circumstances surrounding coronavirus and how would they title that chapter. And what we thought most appropriate is they would just call it, Who Knows? Because the truth is we don't know. There's so much about the coronavirus and the vaccines and the distancing, how many feet you've got to be apart and the effectiveness of masks or what's going to happen in the long term, and we just really don't know. There's a lot of question marks, a lot of strange things, but one thing we do know is that it has been weird. It's been a strange couple of years and a strange, well, I guess strange, not quite 2 years yet, but just a strange time. And again, this event is a weird, alternative, strange thing for us as well. And I'm again thankful that you would come and participate with us in this kind of out of the ordinary, strange, weird kind of a fundraising concept for us. So speaking of weird, I'm going to talk to you that as I'm moving today, you might see me act a little bit funny. And that is because the other day I was playing soccer and it was a casual game involving small children, high school kids, adults, and very few people that actually knew the game of soccer well. And I chose to play the goalkeeper because I know my age and I know what happens at my age if I run around and try to be a superstar is I get hurt. So I chose to play goalkeeper where there was shade and where I knew I wouldn't risk hurting myself. Unfortunately, not everybody playing the game had the same idea, and on one of the scenarios, the ball was up in the air. I stood and I reached up to catch the soccer ball, and as I did, a overzealous high school student came running in full speed from the side to try to be a hero, and he kneed me in the rib cage and either broke or deeply bruised one of my ribs. So sometimes if I move my arms too quickly or I lean in the wrong direction, you'll see me wince and you'll see me stop, which is just, part of the game, I guess. So if you see me acting funny or make a funny face, I appreciate you just bearing with me that it is not anything more than I got a sore rib. But that said, there's actually a neat little parallel to my story and what we do here at the Pregnancy Help and Information Center, and that is that I was doing everything that I thought I could to avoid getting hurt, except for the fact that I was actually playing the game. And the reality is that a lot of the girls that come through our office will tell us they were doing everything they thought they could to avoid being pregnant except playing the game, if you know what I mean. And so we see them. Sometimes they come because of the foolish choices they've made. Sometimes they come because of foolish things that were done to or with them. But the reality is they show up. And they show up in a season of pain, emotional, relational, situational pain. And our job is to respond to them in a kind way. Our job is to respond to them in truth and in compassion. And like when I hurt my ribs, the two people that were running the show came over to me and they cared for me like I was an elementary school kid. Are you okay? Do we need to get you to the hospital? And I was able to reassure them that I was okay. But knowing there was someone there who cared about me, who was watching out for me, was helpful for me. And that's what the Phi Center is all about. We have girls that show up to us in trouble. We have girls that show up to us hurt. And our job is to be available to them, to care for them, to meet their needs in that moment, and love them in truth, and love them with grace, that we might advocate on behalf of that baby. You guys just finished going through a time together, either going through a liturgy as a group or going through some small group conversations that centered around the glory of God in all of this and some of the different circumstances that surround crisis pregnancies. And it's a time for us to be mindful of the scriptures and what God has to say about some of that, to dedicate time to prayer, praying for individuals, praying for even maybe ourselves, praying for the situation. But it was on a very high level, right? A lot of times when we think about this thing of abortion, we think about it on the level of an issue, something people are voting about, something that's going on around the world, that it's a blight that's happening worldwide and it's been going on for a long, long time. And when we think about it in the context of as an issue and all that is going wrong and the millions of people that have been affected by it, it can be overwhelming. There's not a whole lot we feel that we can do to actually move the needle or to make a difference, because it is such an enormous problem that affects so many people. And I equate it a little bit to the idea of rain. That I was reading a devotional written by John Paper about rain. And he was talking about the idea of how much rain it covers to have 1 inch of rain over 1 square mile of a farm field. And the actual weight of that rain will be something like 1.6 billion pounds of liquid falling from the sky. And now if all of it fell at the same time, it would be destructive. It would crush the crops. But yet God, in his wonderful design, breaks that 1.6 billion pounds up into tiny little raindrops. And those tiny little raindrops he uses to nourish the crops and to allow those crops to bear fruit. And my job today is to make you draw attention to the fact that this large issue that we all face, that is an enormous problem that we all face, is something I'm inviting you to participate in order for us to make a difference here at the Phi Center. Because at the Phi Center, it becomes local. At the Phi Center, it becomes about neighbors, people up the street, folks you might run into at the grocery store. It becomes about high schools and colleges that you are familiar with, and about streets that you drive on, and about people who go to the same post office that you go to, and about little children who may never have the chance to experience our canopy roads or to go to a FAMU game because they may be not given the chance to live. That this is your community, these are your people, and I'm inviting you to participate not in addressing the issue per se, but in coming alongside the mothers and the fathers and the children who might be affected by this thing that we call abortion. So we need help. We need help at the Phi Center. We're a place that depends on the donations of individual people in this community, churches, small businesses, and families, who support the work that we do so that we can be available to help the clients that come to see us. And the number one thing that we have to offer our clients is availability. That they're looking for someone to help them. They're looking for someone to ask questions to. They're looking for someone to listen to them, that they can lean on. And for us, the secret is that our doors can be open and we can be available to make that happen. And for us to be able to do that, we depend on the support of people like you that are sitting around that table or sitting in that living room right now listening to this video. Last year, because of the coronavirus, we had to cut our operating budget by almost $50,000 going into this year. Giving was down in every possible area that we experienced giving, both from individuals or from churches or from anything else, that our giving was down to the point that we had to cut our budget. And that's just real. That's just the numbers. We're not alone in that. Ministries around the country, I'm sure, experienced that. Small businesses had to close. So I don't mean to set us on a pedestal or set us aside, but just to call attention to the fact that, just like many other folks, our numbers were down, and it was to the tune of about $50,000. And what that means is we're operating this year one staff member short. We didn't have to let anybody go, but we also chose not to hire this year because we wanted to make sure that we were good stewards of where our money was and that we weren't putting anybody in a difficult financial situation. But that's just a story. This event, Brephos, is the event that we normally expect to get between $40,000 and $60,000 to support this ministry. And that comes in the form of pledges, and that comes in the form of money given the night of the event. This year, I'm hoping we might see that number closer to $100,000. And the reason why is it's going to help to sustain us for this year and help to offset some of the loss that we had for last year. And that's a big number, and that's why I mentioned the rain earlier. That when we think about a number like $100,000, if you're anything like me, we think about the donation that I might have to make and barely make a dent in $100,000. You know, my $10 a month or my $15 or my $20 a month seems like pennies compared to a $100,000 ask, and it is. It isn't significant relative to $100,000. But when we think about it in the context of 1.6 billion pounds of rainwater broken down into tiny little droplets that weigh 0.34 grams or whatever the science says, you see how the collective efforts of a whole bunch of small donations can make a big difference. And so tonight, you're going to be asked to contribute to that, to be one of those raindrops, maybe a few of those raindrops, to be able to satisfy this ministry and to help sustain us going into the future. Don't think about the 100,000 necessarily, but think about how your contribution can make a difference in that 100,000, that we might be able to be available to serve others. So here's how it breaks down. For us at the Phi Center, it costs us about $500 a year to serve one of our clients. And it would be awesome if you and your family would consider helping us relative to that. And how that would break down over the course of a month is if you became a monthly supporter of ours, it'd be roughly $42 a month. So at $42 a month, you would be able to contribute to us about $500 over the course of the year, which allows us to serve one client. And that's fantastic. Some of you guys, that's exactly where you're going to be able to fit and help us. Some of you might be in a situation where you can do a little more, and maybe you want to help us serve 2 clients, and that would turn into $84 a month, or 3 clients, which would be $126 a month, or 4 clients, which would be $168 a month. We even have donors that support us to the tune of $500 a month, which serves out to about 12 clients a year. And if we can think about that, not so much just as a financial amount or how that affects the larger picture, but the fact that the money that you're giving in a given month is making sure that a young person coming into the Phi Center is going to be received by someone who is walking with Jesus, hoping to introduce them to Jesus, and is going to advocate on behalf of the unborn child that they carry with them. That's what the ministry is about. The other day I had this opportunity. We had a young couple come in, a teenage couple, both of whom still in high school. And I got to meet with the young man who was the father, while one of our staff was meeting with the young lady who was the mother. And in the process of talking to them, we're hearing their story. We find out they got a baby about 6 weeks along. And as we're talking to them, I'm hearing this young man tell me things in kind of Christian language, but I'm getting the feeling that he doesn't really know Jesus, but just knows some of the terminology of the church. And so, and this is a rare thing for me, I felt led, and I chose to share with him the truth about who Jesus is, and talk to him about sin, and I talked to him about salvation. I talked to him about the role that Jesus Christ plays in salvation, that he is the only way to be reconciled with the Father. And I was able to ask this young man if he wanted to have a relationship with the Father through Jesus Christ, and he said yes. And I got to pray with this young man and hear him ask the Lord Jesus into his life and give his life to Christ that day. And what was cool is we got to walk with him to go and tell the mother of his child the same story. And we sat down with her, and I had him explain to her what was going on. And she kind of squirmed and kind of grinned and was asking, what this all was about, because she was in a very similar place to him. She knew a lot of church language, but she didn't know Jesus. And together, this young man and myself, we got to explain to this girl who Jesus is and what salvation is, and the wonderful privilege, again, not something we see all the time, but the wonderful privilege of being able to be a part of both of these young people giving their lives to Christ and beginning new lives in Christ, this new creation restored. And we're trusting God for that story, and we're trusting God for their development. And they've been coming now to classes, and they're interested in doing follow-up courses with us, but because of coronavirus, we had to take a couple weeks off. But anyhow, it's just one of those stories that we were here. They didn't show up somewhere that wasn't going to give them the gospel. They didn't go somewhere that wasn't going to advocate for a baby. They didn't go somewhere where they weren't going to hear the truth. They came here. And they came here because our lights were on, and our doors were open, and our staff was here. And those things are all possible because individuals have come to events like Brephos in the past and gotten behind us financially, and they're supporting us now monthly so that we can do this work that God has called us to do in this community. And that's exactly what I'm inviting you to do with us today. So I want you to look at these things in front of you. You have cards that will be given to you by the host to invite you to this party. They've got a pamphlet or a folder there that's going to have cards in them. You'll get something that looks like this, and you'll get something that looks like this. And I'm going to explain both of them to you. The first thing you have is a pledge card. And on the pledge card, you'll see it has contact information. And that's the basic stuff, like your name, your address, your phone number. And what you're going to do is there at the top, you're going to give us your name, you're going to put your address, you're going to put what city, state, zip, your phone number, what church you attend, and we use that to kind of know what churches are supporting us, who we can reconnect with at a deeper level, an email address, and you're going to let us know whether or not it's okay for you to, for us to email you, send you information about our regular stuff. And then on the bottom part, you'll see opportunities for where you might want to volunteer. So that's where we're going to get your basic information so that we can know that you were connected with us and follow up with you. The second card has two sides to it. One side is going to talk about your one-time donation tonight, where it's going to give you the option of, I would like to make a one-time donation, and you'll see the options of 1,000, 500, 250, etc., where you can put down what kind of a gift you can give tonight. And these gifts are important. This is a promise that is going to be, not a promise, this is an actual check you would write or an investment you might make in us, either on one of these cards or through the website. You'll see on the bottom it says phicenter.org/donate. Or if you'd prefer, you can call us at 222-7177, and we will call you back if you prefer to give your information over the phone. So one of those three ways, either with this card, going to the website, phicenter.org/donate, or 222-7177 over the phone, we would love for you to consider making a one-time gift tonight. So for some people, that might be $100. Some people, that might be $1,000. Some people may have deeper pockets, and I want to share something with you. We've been talking as a staff about ways we can enhance this building to be able to serve our clients better. And one of them is to try to create a way where those who come to us in crisis, who may be a little bit more concerned about who sees them and what's going on, that we could put the ultrasound room the same side of our building as where our client counseling room is, and the same side of the building where our bathrooms are. Right now, if a client comes to our building and they go through the process of kind of getting a pregnancy test done, they have to walk all the way across our building back and forth. And it's small, it's just a matter of a few steps. But if you're someone who is in a little bit of fear, who's maybe carrying with you a little bit of shame, the idea of walking back and forth in front of a lobby where people are checking in, kids are around, maybe there's a chance somebody that you would know would be there, can be a little bit embarrassing and can be a bit of a hurdle for people to overcome. So we've been talking as a staff about how cool it would be to move all of that to the same side of our building, which would require some renovation of the building. We're moving some walls, extending a bathroom, changing some flooring. We may be looking at a bill of close to $20,000, depending on how much the cost of lumber is and what it costs to do that. So you may be someone who says, you know, I love that idea of the Phi Center enhancing their building to be able to serve clients, and you can write a check for $20,000. You would put that in the other box. If that's great and that's something you can do, we would greatly appreciate it. It'd be fantastic. But again, don't feel like a $20,000 gift is what we're expecting of everybody. You'll see there's all kinds of ways to give as a one-time gift for tonight. We'd appreciate you considering that. But the second kind, on the back side of that card, it says my monthly commitment. And on there, that's where you give an opportunity to say, I would like to give, say, $42 a month. Remember, that $42 turns into $500 annually. It turns into one client served for us. So maybe it's 42, maybe it's 84, maybe it's 500, maybe it's 5. I know there's people that serve this ministry by giving us close to $3 a month, because that's what they have, and that's what they can give, and that's a wonderful blessing to us. So wherever you fall in that category, the idea of you being connected to us on a regular basis, where you can get information from us, we know you're giving to us, prayers can be going back and forth, you're staying connected with the ministry, that is vital for us to be able to continue to be available in this community to serve young women in crisis, young men in crisis, and their babies who are at risk for abortion. And it's your contributions, either monthly or one time tonight, that are going to make that happen for many, many people. So with that said, you have the cards and you've got the explanations of how to use them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close down here, and your host is going to take over. And the host is going to explain to you more about your opportunities for volunteering. That's something super important for us. We need people in the building who will love and care for our clients or work behind the scenes. They will explain to you what the volunteer options are. But the last thing I want to pitch to you is still related to the financial support of this ministry, and it is about this organic, flexible, home-to-home concept of Brephos, and that is the idea of an echo. If you're here tonight and you're someone who loves this ministry, or is learning about this ministry for the first time, and is finding yourself drawn to this ministry, and you want to find out a way to help very quickly, I wonder if you'd consider hosting a Brephos at your house. Because of how we've done it this year, and because this can be given to you literally in a box, the catering is covered, the programming is covered, this video will be the same video you get to see at that meeting, I wonder if you'd be willing to say, hey, I will host one of these at my house in 6 weeks, or in 2 months, or in whatever. If you're willing to do that, if you'd be willing to reach out to some of your friends from your church or your Sunday school class or your Wednesday night small group or wherever it is that you're involved, would you please take on that bigger card, the one that's called the pledge card with your name and address on it, if you would just write the word echo off to the side somewhere, letting us know that you'd be interested in hosting one of these yourself. Somebody from the Phi Center will reach out to you, and they will walk you through the process of hosting this at your house. So if you can participate in a Brephos echo, that would be fantastic. It would be a great way for us to engage more people in the community with this ministry, and that we might find more of the support that we need to stay available to the clients who need us. So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for being a part of this ministry. Thank you for supporting this ministry, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.